What I kind of want to do is talk about, kind of as Christopher laid out, we'll go through using one of the newer features, which is installing BioTabs and dashboards directly through Andar. That's a new feature as of the 2501 service pack. We'll take a look at that. And then we'll go through some of a couple of the settings. I won't get into a ton of settings because literally every app has its own settings, but we'll take a look at some settings just so you get a flavor for how to personalize these dashboards. And then moving things around, creating some custom BioTabs and dashboards. We'll kind of use some of the things that we explore in the earlier parts to talk about creating a custom BioTab or dashboard. Throughout, there's going to be a question box there, and Christopher's going to be monitoring questions. And if there's anything important that comes up, he'll interrupt me, and we'll take care of that right then and there. I'm going to try and pause a couple times throughout this webinar to answer a couple of questions if they come through. So make sure that you're submitting questions in the question box that comes up on the Teams meeting there. A couple other housekeeping sides of things. Christopher's going to be sending out a link to our YouTube channel, I think towards the end of the session. That's going to be where the video gets housed. So if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, that's where all of these videos get kind of linked out for future reference. It's also going to be in our newsletter, and I think he's got a sign up form for the newsletter as well towards the end of the session if you're not already receiving that. So I'll let him do all of that stuff towards the end of the session. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end for Q&A that I might not have gotten to. So just some of that kind of housekeeping stuff. One other piece of housekeeping I'll throw out there is with hot fixes. There have been, right from the get-go, from the 2502 service pack, there were a couple of hot fixes that got put into place to allow a couple of bugs get fixed that were preventing some dashboards from loading properly. So if you're on the 2502 service pack, make sure that you're on a newer hotfix. That way, any bugs that we find with apps or any of those other bugs that have been fixed months and months ago, those hotfixes will make sure that all of those get updated and you'll be good to go. So make sure you're on hotfixes, newest hotfix. So. Okay, so BioTabs and dashboards. The first thing I just want to say is I'm going to mess up the language just because my brain has this thing where it ties the two together almost exactly the same. So if I make a mistake in my language, I'm going to apologize. I'll try and correct myself. But a BioTab is a very specific set of information for one account. So I'll show you that in a second here. But a BioTab looks at either an individual or an organization account, whereas a dashboard is global and kind of organizational. It's not necessarily looking at one specific account. So that's kind of the main level difference between the two. They might look very similar. They might have charts. They might have tables that all show data. The idea that a BioTab or a dashboard is it's gathering a bunch of information and pulling it all together in one spot for you. But the difference between a BioTab and a dashboard is the BioTab is for one specific account. A dashboard is potentially, and most usually, for a bunch of different data across your entire database, not necessarily one account. So I'll kind of highlight that one more time when we get into looking at BioTabs and dashboards here in a second. So, but I wanted to kind of set the table with some terminology there, and I'll try my best to keep the language consistent for everything. So the new feature in the 2501 service pack was to allow people to install BioTabs and dashboards directly from Andar. Prior to this, if you're on an older service pack, first off, I'm going to recommend getting the new service pack, the 2502 service pack. But if you do happen to be on the 2401 service pack or prior, or I think the 2401 was, or 2501 was the first one that allowed this. So if you're on an older service pack, older than 2501, you still have to go out to the website, download the file, and then import it in. I'm not going to show that process because it's over a year old now at this point. But what I do want to highlight is the new process for installing it directly from Andar. There's two ways to do it, two common ways to do it. The first is in this What's New article. So if you have installed a new service pack, you'll get this What's New pop-up that comes up. This is also a brand new feature. It walks you through a lot of the new features with a next button and a previous button. So if you're interested in seeing some of those big features that have come out in a service pack, this is going to be an ongoing tool that shows you some of those newer features that we're offering. One of the links for that What's New article is install BioTabs and Dashboards from Andar. That's a perpetual link that's always going to be in the What's New article. And if you click on it, it's going to open up a window. And that particular window has all of the BioTabs and Dashboards that you can install directly from Andar. So these are BioTabs and Dashboards that we design based on either internal knowledge, or a lot of times when I'm speaking with a customer, we did a bunch of site visits. They'll provide us with some good insights on what BioTabs and Dashboards that they want to see created. If it's global enough for everybody, we will try and reconstruct it and then release it out to everybody. And this is that release functionality. So if you were to look over on the left-hand side, you can see a whole bunch of BioTabs and Dashboards on the left. The last update, so if we've made any code changes or anything like that to the dashboard, you might see a last update date that is newer than what some of these other ones are. And then you've also got this release. The release is pretty important because it essentially says that there might be an app on this dashboard that will only work in, for example, 2502. So these top ones that have 2025-02 on it, that means that there's at least one app on there that is brand new. And if you tried to install this on any of the older service packs, it wouldn't work. So it's kind of flagging that, hey, to use this BioTab or dashboard, you have to be on this minimum service pack. So it's minimum service pack requirement. So just keep that in mind. I am on the newest service pack. I'm on the 2502 service pack, so I can choose anything. If there's an older date down here, it doesn't really matter. If you're on the newest one, it's always backwards compatible. So what you would do is you find a dashboard that you're interested in, and it's right now we just have the description, the name of it in the description field. But if you click on that, it gives you a little bit more information. We know you can't make a decision based on the actual name of the BioTab or dashboard. So we've provided a screenshot of what that dashboard looks like, or BioTab, and then a really quick description of what it is. Sometimes the documentation links are missing. We're actually going through and redoing a lot of our documentation. So you might find that a lot of the newer dashboards don't have a documentation link that's active. We're working on that, but hopefully the description gives you enough, and the screenshot gives you enough to decide whether you want to install this or not. So get a little description of what the BioTab or dashboard is. If it has any requirements like MIG or anything like that, we'll highlight that up here, and we're going to reintroduce that idea of service packs. So it's saying that you have to have 2025-02, and it's not necessarily dependent on any hotfixes. So some important information up at the top, description. Sometimes you'll get a documentation link, and then a screenshot of what the actual dashboard looks like. And then at the very bottom, you've got an install button. And it's really just as simple as choosing which BioTab or dashboard you would like to install and clicking the install button. I will throw this out there. If you are just a normal user, you might want to check with an admin on your team if you have admins for Andar. If you add the BioTab or dashboard multiple times, it'll just try and overwrite it. So it's not really harmful. But if your admin already has a BioTab or dashboard set up, you might want to check with them before installing this. Also, some folks have security set up so that not everybody can access all dashboards and things like that. So when in doubt, contact your Andar admin, but it really is just as simple as clicking the install button. Now, I'm going to stop for a second. If you don't have this What's New article, there's an option to close this and not show it again, because we know you don't want to see the new features every single time you open up the Andar. So if you don't have that What's New article, there's a way to see that What's New as well, like after you close it and don't show it again. But there's also a way to install these BioTabs and dashboards without going through that. I'm going to show you both really quickly. So if you ever did want to go through and find that What's New article series again, in your help menu, you can go to what's new for, and then it'll list the service pack for you. So if you've closed that and you don't get that little pop-up and you do want to see what was new in this last service pack, you can always go to your help menu, what's new for 2025-02, click on it, and it populates this guy right back again. The other thing that you can do is if you don't want to go through that method, and if you've been using Andar for a while, you probably already know this, but you can always go to the BioTab and Dashboard Maintenance window. That's the screen that we were just on where I had the install button. I always forget where that is, so I use the second search box on the right-hand side, and I'll type in Dashboard. And there it is, BioTab and Dashboard Maintenance. And when I click on that, it shows me the menu item over here in the left-hand side. And if I just double click that, I'm right back where I started. I can click the import button down here in the bottom right corner. I'm sorry, the install button. Sorry, install from Andar button. So if you click the install from Andar button, that takes us right back to where we were. That has a list of all our BioTabs and dashboards. So that BioTab and dashboard maintenance screen can be gotten to in a couple of different ways, through the help article, through that help menu, through the what's new article, or you can just go straight to the menu item. And if you ever forget where that menu item is, you can always use the search bar up here to search through your menus. Okay, so back to dashboards here. We installed the one that I picked was the leadership dashboard. And this leadership dashboard is designed for some folks and maybe not others. That's kind of the idea with these BioTabs and dashboards. You might have different dashboards for different roles. This one in particular might not be useful to your finance folks because they're looking for very specific finance information. We've got a finance dashboard out there that they might be more interested in. So the idea behind these BioTabs and dashboards is you can set them up so that they're maybe a little more role-based if you want. Maybe it's a whole organization really does look at this leadership information and everybody can access it. However you want to do that, but in this example, this might only be useful for people who are looking at your leadership information rather than the nitty-gritty transactions and finance information. Again, if I wanted to look at one of the other ones that we released, the finance one, this shows a lot about envelopes and web envelopes and the AR numbers. And if all of those terms are foreign to you and you're a fundraiser, that's perfectly fine. This is a dashboard that maybe you don't care about, you don't need to look at. So the idea is it's kind of the hat that you're wearing. So if you're a finance person, you wear a finance hat, this dashboard might be more interesting to you than the leadership one. Let's go back to this leadership one for as my example. So we've installed the BioTab or the dashboard. We'll look at BioTabs in a little bit here. Process is exactly the same, but we're looking at a dashboard right now. Some of these apps may work right from the get-go for you, and some of them might not. So they might need a little bit of personalization or a little bit of customization. What I mean by that is every organization, all of our customers are a little bit different. They look at different leadership levels in this case, or maybe they're only looking for specific campaign accounts, or if you're looking at rum dollars versus non-rum dollars, there are a bunch of settings within each one of these apps that will change the functionality of each app. So to see those different settings, there is, I think it looks like a little light switch. It has like 3 little light switches in it up in the top right-hand corner up here. So that little button is showing icons. So if you hover over it, it'll say show icons. Again, to me, it looks like a light panel. So if I click on that button, you'll then see in the header of every single app, there are now a set of buttons that you can work with. One of them is kind of the new universal symbol for settings, the cog wheel. So every single app here has a little cog wheel on it, a little settings icon, and that means you can configure each one of these apps however you want. And this is where kind of the power of BioTabs and dashboards comes in, because we have to produce something that works for 80% of organizations, but then you guys have to take it the kind of the remainder of the way, right? Your organization is different from another organization. So these settings are really where you personalize and customize this BioTap or dashboard for your organization. So for this one, for example, this leadership history chart, if I click the settings, it's going to pop up a window, and that window has a couple of different settings in there. One, how many number of years, right? So right now, I'm going to slide this off to the side. We can see it's showing me 1, 2, 3, 4, and then nothing for this year, 5 years. If I wanted a 3-year history, I can change that to 3 and click update. It'll reload, and now it's showing me 3 years. If you wanted a 10-year history, you can change that to 10. So that's a setting that you guys get to kind of dictate on your own, whatever you want to see. I mentioned earlier different things about campaign accounts. Some folks have all kinds of different campaign accounts for different reasons. A lot of people have a local and an out of area. Sometimes you have a capital campaign or a disaster relief campaign. And maybe you want this chart to only look at one of those campaigns rather than all of those campaigns. So for me, my example, this United Way campaign, that's what I would consider my local campaign. I don't care about any of the other campaigns for this particular chart, so I'm going to choose the United Way campaign, and that filters down the data that feeds this chart. Because this is a leadership chart, we've got what leadership type do I want to look at? So I can look at just the individual leader level, or I can include all of my combined givers. I can look at the overrides for those. So, you've got that one person who actually isn't a leader, but you've gone into the system and you've marked them as a leader with a leadership override. Choosing this radio button will include all of those folks. If I want to do combined and individual, the top 2 radio buttons, that would be this guy. If I want to include everybody, whether they're a combined leader or an individual leader, or they have an override, that's what this fifth button. This fifth button will do. It includes all leaderships. The other thing with this one too is we've got a way to kind of show different information. We can either show the individual gift or the leadership count. So just to demonstrate that really quickly, I actually have, you'll notice the title of this is Leadership History Chart, All Campaigns. This one also is Leadership History Chart, All Campaigns, but they look different. Let me go back and set this to 5. Whoops. Come on. Just so we can kind of compare apples to apples. Now, one's displayed horizontally and one's displayed vertically. I'll show you that in a second. But if you look, the colors are completely different, even though these 2 apps are exactly the same app. And that's just because I've configured one to show the dollars, right? Notice the x-axis here in dollars. And then the y-axis on this one is count. So the only difference is I have this one configured to show the leadership count, whereas this one is showing me the individual gift. So it's the same app configured 2 different ways to show me 2 different pieces of data, 2 different ways to look at this data. So you can kind of configure this and play with these apps however you want. Again, I can't go through a ton of these because every single app has its own set of settings. But you can experiment around with these. You can't really break anything with these. You can play around with them. Again, if you're not familiar, maybe create your own and mess with your own. I wouldn't encourage you to do this with a global dashboard. Notice up at the top it says global. Global means that is applying to everybody. So if there's a global dashboard out there and you're playing around with settings, the settings that you're changing, everybody's seeing. So if you want to create your own version of this, you can copy it. If we get some time towards the end, we can talk about copying a dashboard and making it your own so you can kind of play with it on your own and not affect everybody else's settings. But you can kind of go in and once the buttons are enabled to configure each one of these apps, you can play around with all of these different settings and get this dashboard configured exactly how you want. Some of these apps have a lot more settings than others. They're going to look completely different. So there's a little bit of a learning curve there and some experimentation. If you make a huge mistake, if you delete an app or if you change settings and you just want to start fresh, you can always delete the entire BioTab or dashboard and then reinstall it. Again, I'm really going to encourage you to copy this and play with it in your own environment rather than do a global, unless you are the admin, you're doing a global, playing with it, and then you'll let everybody know. That's another kind of workflow that you can go through. So. Okay, Christopher, I'm going to pause for a second and grab a drink, check in with you and see if there are any questions that have come up while I'm grabbing a drink here.
Hey, Nate, thanks. Yeah, actually, we've got quite a few questions, Nate, coming up. We can save
Cool.
those towards the end, or you can address them when you want.
Yeah.
But I also
If there are
wanted
any that have like been repeated or there's a big question there, then I can address it now, or we can kind of summarize at the end and answer at the end.
to,
And if not, that's
well,
okay too.
yeah, no, well, there was one question from Bonnie. She wanted to know what security can we, as an admin, put in place that users can go to the install and see the descriptions, but not actually install.
Uh, I don't know that there is a security on the install button. I would have to look that up, but I don't think that there was ever any security added specifically for the install button. So you can either add dashboards or you can't. And I don't know, even if you get into this is a question that I don't know the answer to. Even if you don't have the security to create dashboards, I don't know if you're even going to be able to see anything in the dashboard maintenance window. It's a good question. We can flag that and come back. But security is there's a lot of levels of security, and I don't know them as well as I should. So good question, but we can flag it for follow up. So
Okay, sure. I'll make a note. We'll come back.
cool. Thank you.
Um, and sort of related, if we set a filter on a dashboard and BioTab, is there a way that the same filter is the same for all users?
Yes, yes, and that's a really good question too. So in this example right here, this ranking inquiry, this has a filter. So if you've got a filter turned on, it'll say filter on. And what you can do is you can save. So these are different filters for the same app. Um, I've created a bunch just to kind of play around with, but you'll notice these filters have a little star and global. And if it says star global, that means the filter applies globally. If you have your own filter for this and you want to turn this on just for yourself and use a filter for yourself, you can do that. You would save the filter as not being global, right? You can see up here it says edit filters for Nate S. I'm logged in as Nate S. So you can have your own filters or you can have global filters. And if you choose to do a global filter, when you get in, so for example, we've got a filter. I'm just going to choose one of these guys. There's a button that says set to global. And if you click set to global, that applies this filter to that particular app globally across everybody's instance of this dashboard. So that would be the way to do that. If you wanted to save it just for yourself, you can hit the save button. Whoops, sorry, save as button. And you can save it just for yourself. And then you would not set it to global. It would just include this particular filter in that list as for you, and it wouldn't say global next to it. But anytime you click the set to global button, or you choose a filter here that says global, that will then set it for everybody, just like the app settings and everything else, or the dashboard settings. I'm sorry. Okay,
All right, super.
cool. I can go through.
And-
I'll give you a chance if there are like repeated questions or whatever. We'll try and catch up in the towards the end here.
Super.
Okay. Okay. So now you've got right now we've got a dashboard. What if you want to personalize this a little bit more and maybe there's an app on here that you don't care about, or maybe there is a new app that you want to add. You can further personalize these by either removing or adding apps. So on every single app, while you have the little light panel enabled and it's showing you the little settings buttons here, you'll notice there's a little do not enter or a minus sign here. That will remove this app. So if I were to click this little remove app button, it actually removes this app directly from the dashboard. Again, be careful because if this is a global dashboard and you click the little remove, it removes it from everybody. So further use case of creating your own copy, playing around with this, and then you can go and make it global. But if you click the little minus button, it'll actually remove just this app and leave a little placeholder there. Similarly, if I wanted to add an app, there's a little button up in the top header, kind of across from the title of the dashboard. That's a little plus sign. That adds an app. So if I click that, you get this screen. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller just so it's easier to see. One of the new features we added was a category for apps. So in here, you can go and say, I'm a fundraiser. I want to see all of the fundraising apps. I don't care about the finance apps or the events apps or any of that kind of stuff. I just want to see the fundraising apps. And if you click the fundraising app, it's not going to look like it does anything, but it filters the list of apps down here to just the ones that are tagged as fundraising. So it's not going to show any of the finance or the leadership or any of that. Sorry, leadership's a bad example. It's not going to show any of the finance or any of the AR apps or any of that kind of stuff. It's going to be limited to fundraising. And maybe I want to add this campaign structure app. And then there you get your settings and you can click add and it's going to add it to the very bottom of the dashboard. If you don't like that, you can hit the little minus button and it's going to say, do you want to remove this? You say yes, and it's gone. So you can add apps by clicking this button, or if you want to remove one specific app, you can click this button. Word of caution, there is a minus button up here. When you hover over it, it says remove all apps. That will remove every app on the dashboard. So just be careful with that one. Keep the two minus buttons separate. The one up in the top header removes everything, whereas this removes just the one app that you're on down here. Okay. One other thing that I want to show you really quickly, and this is a new feature, but I think it's a really useful feature, and it is going to get overlooked. I know it because it's hidden. I don't love hidden features, but this is I want to call it out every opportunity I get. I'm going to go back into this BioTab and dashboard maintenance screen. So this is where we saw the install from Andar button. It's also, if you search your menu or use that search box, it'll show you the menu item that we got there. One of the newer features that we put in were categories. So right now I haven't done a great job of categorizing all of my BioTabs and dashboards, but the idea behind a category is that all of our new BioTabs and dashboards are going to have a category of Andar software. And the nice part about categories is not only does it allow you to sort and filter and find dashboards or biotabs, if I wanted to find all of my, communications biotabs and dashboards, I can do a sort and filter on this column header and find all of my communications dashboards. So that's one function there. But the other one that I kind of wanted to show you was you can, when I create a category, so there's my Andar software category. If I click on this, all I did was click the little plus button in my dashboard screen up here. There you can see these are all the categories that I have. So Andar software, campaign, communications, data quality. Those are all the categories that I've created. And what you can do is add all of the biotabs or dashboards in this category or close all of the biotabs and dashboards in this category. So you can see I've got my finance and leadership dashboards that are open because they've got the little green globe for global. And then I've got the grayed out ones. So those are two that I don't have open. So rather than clicking twice and adding these two, if I just wanted to add the entire Andar software category to what I can flip through, all I do is that. You see I've got two new tabs up here that I can click on. And conversely, if I want to close all of those, I can go back here and say close all in this category, and it closes all of those for me. So it's kind of a quick way. I use Chrome a lot, and Chrome has groups. It's kind of a quick way to do groups. You can open or close all of the biotabs or dashboards in a category or a group. I'm going to show you a BioTab really quickly. BioTabs, the only reason I'm going to show it to you is just to prove it's essentially the same idea as a dashboard. It's just for a specific account. So BioTabs are really designed for gathering a whole bunch of data on one specific account and pulling it all together for you. We released a bunch of BioTabs in the last service pack, the 2502 service pack, because we didn't have a whole lot prior to this. So I thought it was a good idea to release a bunch of BioTabs. The idea again is these BioTabs on the left-hand side, if you click the little plus button, you can go and install BioTabs just like we saw with the dashboards. Same exact process. But on the left-hand side, we've got a general profile. So this is going to show overall information for this one specific account. If I want to see the campaign information, that's, a different lens that you're putting on looking at this person. Maybe the campaign tab is, or campaign bio tab is a better way to look at this. If you're a finance person and you don't really want to see all of the campaign related numbers, but you want to see some AR information or some envelope information or any of that hard financial data, you can go to the finance bio tab and it summarizes some kind of financial information. So it's going to show you things like the statement, what they owe, what this person owes. Campaign people generally don't care about that as much as finance people, so it's a different lens that you're putting on it. The other one that we released is this data entry bio tab. This is a good spot. It's not going to be pretty, but what it does is it kind of gathers all of your key data points and puts them all in one spot for you. So rather than clicking on 10 or 15 different tabs and subtabs up across the top to find your emails and your addresses and all of that kind of stuff, we've put little apps on here to kind of pull all of those important data points together on one screen. So if I need to edit this person's address, I don't have to go anywhere in the tabs or subtabs. I can do it right from here. So I can find his address, click the update button, and I can update his address. I didn't have to get into the tabs or subtabs. Same thing with email address. If this is his email address and I need to make a change, I don't have to go to any other subtabs. I can just do it right from here. So these bio tabs were added for individuals and organizations. You can add them for individuals and organizations, import them just like we saw with the dashboards. So all of the same things that we just talked about with dashboards apply to bio tabs. You can click the little settings switch and you've got configurations for each one of these apps that you can go through and play with. You can drag them around. One thing I didn't show you is maybe I want to move this app somewhere else. If you hover over like the header of this app, it turns into a hand. And if you grab it and drag it, you can drop it somewhere else. See how there's a little green outline? And if I just drop it there, it moves that app over here. You can also make these guys bigger. So if this app needs a little bit more space left to right, you can click the right arrow and now it takes up 2 columns. You can click the left arrow and it'll go back to 1. If you want to set this, I don't think I have a good example in this, but if you want to make it taller, you can say right now it's taking up 5 rows, not columns, but rows. I want to make it take up 20 rows. Doesn't do anything because I don't have any data. This is a bad example. But now if there was a whole bunch of rows there, it would now show all of those rows. So we'll set that back to 5. We'll drop it back in here. So you can adjust things left and right, up and down, drag and drop. You can move them all around. That's all when you have this little settings option enabled. Once you click this button again, all of your options in the headers go away and you can't drag these around anymore. I don't get the little hand icon anymore. Last thing I want to show you, and then we'll pause again for questions and a time check here. The last thing I want to go back to the charts. So I'm back on a dashboard just to show you charts. Any chart that you have, you can configure some of the settings in charts. So again, we are going to enable the settings for each one of these apps, and you'll notice there's a little pencil up here. So those pencils only show up on charts, and if you hover over the button, it says chart settings. Notice my data cards don't have the little pencil. So this is only applicable to charts. So if I click the little pencil, it gives me a little modal window. And here's where I can configure some options about the charts. How do I want the labels to display? Do I want them to be on the pie chart itself? Do I want them to be above the pie chart? Do I want them to be to the right? Or do I not want to display labels at all? So you get some options with all of your charts where your labels are and things like that. You also get to, in pie charts, for example, there is a selected slice or no selected slice. So if I do this, it's going to automatically, whoops, I shouldn't hover over that. It's going to automatically pop out that blue slice for me. And then I can say, I don't want to pop that one out. I want to pop the second series out. All it's doing is saying, this is series 1, series 2, series 3, 4, and 5. So if you wanted to highlight one of these slices in this particular chart, you can choose that and highlight that. You can also change the color theme here as well. So we have pre-populated some of the themes there. You can create your own custom color themes. So if I wanted to choose this theme 1, it completely changes the colors around. Theme 2 changes the colors around again. There's a United Way theme that we put in, and that uses the United Way Worldwide branding to keep everything consistent. And then if you wanted to create your own, you can hit the little pencil button, and it gives you the option to create your own. In this case, it's actually letting me modify these colors. So, but you can create your own color theme and then choose that if that's what you wanted to do. The other way to get to those settings is on any chart. So if you could click the little pencil button, the way I kind of prefer to do it is just by right-clicking on the chart. And when you right-click on a chart, you've got that chart settings. Same exact thing that we just saw by clicking the pencil. The reason I kind of like to right-click on it is it shows me some other things that I can do. I can save this chart as a PNG, maybe throw that into a presentation, or download it and send it out in an email or whatever, or you can actually copy the chart as an image. So if you wanted to copy it instead of downloading it and paste it into a document, you can copy that as well. So while the pencil's up there, that's great, that's nice. Sometimes people forget you can actually save the actual chart, or you can copy it and paste it in. So Christopher, I'm going to throw back to you. I just got the little 5-minute warning. I'm happy to stick around a little bit longer, but I'm going to grab a drink and see what kind of questions we've got, and grab a drink here.
All right, Nate. A lot of really great questions. Let me see. A couple of questions around the what's new option. I believe the pop-up.
Yeah.
The question is, I do not have the what's new option in my help drop-down.
Yeah.
Does that mean I do not have access to these new dashboard options?
No, it's a good question. So there's two parts to it. The first part is, why don't I see this in my help menu? There might be two answers. One, you're not on the 2502 service pack. My guess is you probably are. And if that's the case, you might not have it because you're logged in as the system administrator role. So if you're logged in with kind of your system admin role, that's the one that you can go in and modify all of your system preferences and things like that. That particular role doesn't have that menu item. So that's why you might not see it in your help menu. The second part of that is you can always go in and get dashboards and BioTabs, regardless of what role you're in. And that's by going into your BioTab and dashboard and maintenance menu item. So that's what I showed you earlier. So that's this guy. So if you search for dashboard and go to the dashboard and BioTab and dashboard maintenance menu item, you'll always have this install from Andar button. That's completely independent of the what's new. The what's new is just a different way to get you there. This is the constant. So this install from Andar button on the BioTab and dashboard maintenance window, that's where you can go and install that, regardless of how you're logged in or regardless if you see that what's new message. Good question.
Okay, super, Nate. That was very helpful. Robert, I think that kind of related to your question. If it didn't answer it, just email me at the end, and I'll get to something else. Another question we had was when you were talking about the charts, someone asked, can we print those charts?
Yeah, so that's a good question too. There's a couple of ways that you can go about this. One, if you wanted to copy this or download it and paste it into a PowerPoint or anything like that, you can always print it. You can drop it into a Word doc or anything like that and print it for sure. If you wanted to print it directly from Andar, the answer is yes, but it's a little bit more complex. There is a print button. Notice up here next to the little settings, hide icons and show icons that we've been talking about. There is a print button. And we've allowed folks to print BioTabs and dashboards for many, many, many years. The key with that is you have to choose a style sheet. And the style sheets are where that comes into play a little bit more. People use style sheets to essentially style. It's like a web page. Style sheet styles the page that we're looking at. In this case, you would be styling essentially a PDF. So the style sheet itself would have to be set up, and that's coding. We can always help you out with that if you're not familiar with coding. We provide a couple of basic ones, but because everybody uses these so differently, and because we've kind of gotten away from actually printing printed documents, like the emphasis has really been on showing data rather than printing data, we haven't gone back and added default style sheets to all of these. So if you do want to print it in a PDF, the answer is yes, you can do that. Maybe reach out to us and see if we can help you create a style sheet that will print this appropriately for you out on a PDF. So yes, with a little caveat that we would probably want to create a nice style sheet to make it look pretty for you. Otherwise, you can always copy the image and throw it into a Word doc or anything else that you want, and you've got the actual image in there for whatever you want. Okay.
All right, great. What more? See, it says in a bio tab, I'm struggling to get the default page to reset. How do I make this stick?
Oh, gotcha. Good, good. That's a great. I'm glad whoever asked that question gets the gold star from me because this is something I always forget to explain. So what I think what they're asking is this is typically what you see when you open up an individual or organization profile. It lands on this main bio, so the main tab with the main bio subtab. Super ugly, not helpful at all, gives us a really bad reputation for not showing really good data. So I think the question here is how do I get it to not show this screen and show one of the more useful bio tabs by default? So the answer is once you get, so you click your little plus, you find your bio tab that you want to add, it shows up in your list over here. That's step one. Once you've got that, you can see here it is, profile individual. To get that to be sticky and show every single time you open up an account, right click on it. Again, hidden feature. Sorry, not a big fan of hidden features, but hidden feature. Then you can say set this as default, and you can also set it as main. So for something that you want to see every single time, you can choose both of these. So in this case, I'm going to say set it as my default. I'm going to right click it again, and I'm going to say set it for main. And now every single time that I open up an individual account, that profile individual bio tab gets loaded by default. So you don't have to click on it. That's just what it shows. The main bio is always there to go back to if you ever needed to, but now by default, this guy's going to show. That's the other really cool thing about bio tabs. You know, for your finance folks, if you set this profile individual if you do it, that doesn't mean your finance people want to land on this page by default. They can do the same thing with this finance individual, and they'll say set finance individual as default and set for main. Now, whenever your finance person loads up an individual account, it's not showing the profile individual, it's showing the finance tab. So each user can customize which bio tab is loaded by default just by right clicking on the bio tab and setting it as a default for themselves. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that about sums it up. There were a
Cool.
couple of other more in-depth questions. I think maybe I'll reach out to you individually with an email, just for the sake of time. But I definitely have your questions. and I'll get back to you individually with answers. As well, I mentioned it in the chat here that the replay is available tomorrow through our email newsletter. The subscription link is in the chat. As well, you can go to our YouTube channel and sign up there for some other content. As a matter of fact, I'll drop those links in here again.
And while Christopher's doing that, I'm going to throw out if you want help creating your own custom BioTab or dashboard from scratch, you can contact us. We've got a professional service team that can help you create all kinds of crazy BioTabs and dashboards. If you're just having some issues with one specific setting or something like that, you can reach out to our customer care team. Really, you just email our help desk and that'll route it to the right group. So you can always reach out to our customer care, I think it's and our help. I'm going to mess it up because I don't send emails to our help team very often. But you can reach out like you were submitting a support ticket, and that will route it to the right people. So if it's a simple question, our customer care folks will answer any questions for you. And if you want help building either customized BioTabs dashboards, or if you've got Executive Plus and you want some help creating a custom app, so custom coding on a custom app, our professional service team can help out with that.